This is the drone from Buzz Bicycles, which is part of an international group of bike brands that includes Huffy and Niner. When I started this review, I knew this group had a ton of experience in building bikes, but I wasn't sure how they'd approach a moped-style e-bike like this one. So is the drone just another overpowered speedster, or did Buzz take a different approach? Let's take a ride and find out. Welcome to Electric Bike Report. My name is John. If you've been here before, welcome back. And if this is your first time checking out one of our reviews, thanks for dropping in. We've built a reputation on our standardized testing methods, our detailed reviews, and our data-driven evaluation of e-bikes. So if you're in the market for one, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so we can help you in your search. The only thing we ask in return is that you use our affiliate link in the video description when you decide to make a purchase, as our content takes a lot of time and effort to produce. We do earn commissions from sales, but this does not increase your cost. With that out of the way, let's get into the drone's details. So to start off with a few of the bike's highlights, I guess I'm gonna answer my opening question. This bike is a little different than most of the other moped-style bikes we've tested. It has a 500-watt hub motor where most others had 750 or 1,000-watt motors, so it's a little less punchy and powerful, and that gives it a really approachable and safe feel. And if you're looking for a bike your kids can ride, but you're worried about how fast some of these bikes can get, this one is a Class 2 e-bike that's limited to 20 miles per hour, so it's definitely on the more controlled side. Another thing that stood out was the drone's step-thru frame design, which is more along the lines of what you'd find with a Vespa, whereas many of the other moped-style e-bikes we've tested were more like mini moto bikes. The benefit of this design is that it's super easy to get on and off the bike because you don't have to swing a leg over the saddle. Finally, let's talk about the drone's price tag. There are plenty of similar bikes out there that run upwards of $2,000, but this bike is priced below $1,500 at the time of filming, which makes it one of the lowest priced bikes of this style that we've seen. Do keep in mind that prices are subject to change fairly often, so you can use our link in the video description to check current pricing on the Buzz website. But now let's do a quick run through of the drone's remaining specs so we can talk about our standardized tests. I mentioned the bike's motor, but that's paired with a 48-volt, 500-watt-hour battery in the down tube. The drone includes a 6-speed Shimano Tourney drivetrain with a 42-tooth chainring and a 14 to 28-tooth cassette. It has a mechanical disc brake system from Star Union with 160mm rotors and 20-inch wheels with knobby 4-inch wide Kenda tires. As with most bikes of this style, the saddle is a stationary seat pad. The drone comes with front and rear lights, fenders on both wheels, and a small storage bag that attaches to the frame beneath the saddle. There's a suspension fork up front with 55mm of travel, and then up in the cockpit we have 670mm wide handlebars with standard faux leather grips. There's a throttle and a control panel on the left handlebar, a bell on the right, and then a centrally mounted black and white display. The drone weighs about 68.5 pounds, including its battery. It's UL 2849 compliant. It comes in a single frame size, and there's only this one color option, but I think it looks really good, and I'm really happy Buzz chose something other than the black, white, or gray that we usually see. But anyway, that covers all the basics, so let's check out the drone's performance when we put it through its paces in our testing. First things first, let's talk about the drone's brakes. As I mentioned in the last section, the bike has a mechanical disc brake system with 160mm rotors. We tested their performance by throttling up to 20 miles per hour and then measuring the distance the bike took to stop after we applied the brakes. We did 3 of these tests and then averaged the results to balance out any inconsistencies, and the drone's final result was 20 feet 5 inches. The average for the entire moped category of e-bikes we've tested is 20 feet 3 inches, so the drone is right about average. Honestly, I expected its results to be a bit worse, considering that it's equipped with mechanical brakes instead of hydraulics, and that those had smaller 160mm rotors, whereas 180s are more commonly seen on this style of bike. But the drone had one big thing going for it. It weighed a good deal less than average, so its brakes didn't need to be as beefy to slow it down effectively. Many bikes in the moped category can reach 80, 90, or even 100 pounds, so the drone's 69-ish pounds was a little easier to stop in comparison. We wouldn't mind seeing hydraulic brakes in the future, considering that they're now fairly standard on e-bikes over $1,000, but the bottom line is that the drone's mechanical brakes are plenty effective for its weight and its 20-mile-per-hour speed limit. Next up is our speed test, and for this one we'll go hit the bike paths and do a pedal test in each assist level. We can also check out the throttle to see how quickly the Buzz drone can get up to speed. All right, let's do a speed test here on the drone, starting off with no pedal assist, and we're going kind of around 8 miles per hour here. Yeah, and you know, as is common with this style of bike, not the most fun thing to pedal, but we're making it happen. Let's go up to PAS 1. All right, so that motor engaged quickly. It's got a good amount of power here, definitely making a big difference in speed. Feels very smooth. I am shifting all the way up to the highest gear. And we seem to be kind of settling in. Kind of around 12 and a half, maybe up to 13 miles per hour or so. Yeah, maybe 12 and a half on average. Let's go ahead and go up to PAS 2. All right. So, starting to feel a little ghost pedaling here. Yeah, okay. So now I'm basically just turning the cranks to keep the motor engaged. Not really contributing. Picking up quite a bit of speed, up to around 17 and a half. All right, maybe up to, oh, still climbing. It could also just be the path here, but 18 and a half, we'll call it there. Let's go up to PAS 3. That's got us up to about 19 and a half, just a hair over, which does seem to be about the max for this bike. Let's go ahead and bump up to PAS 4. I would not really expect much change then, considering that that is the ceiling, and we are holding pretty steady, right around 19 and a half. And then finishing things off in PAS 5. Same thing. All right, we will call that our speed test. All right, let's check out the drone's throttle. We'll see how quickly it goes from 0 to 20. Now this is throttle after pedal, so I'm gonna have to kind of kick off here and then engage the throttle, but we will count that time. And then the other thing is that I haven't actually seen the throttle hit 20. It seems to top out pretty close, maybe like 19.6, 19.8, but I'll try to call it when I see one of those two numbers. So let's start in 3, 2, 1, go. All right. Picking up pretty steadily. 17, 18, 19, 19.6 seems to be the top. All right, let's call it there. So to recap the pedal test, I started off at 7.9 miles per hour with no assist, and then hit 12.5 in PAS 1, 18.5 in PAS 2, and then the bike's maximum speed, which was 19.6 miles per hour in PAS 3, 4, and 5. Overall, the pedal assist was really smooth and the motor was quiet, but the main thing we look for in this test is a steady, consistent increase in speed across all of the pedal assist settings. With the bike hitting its maximum speed in PAS 3 and above, it didn't quite show the profile we hoped for, but that's also a bit less of an issue on this style of bike where most riders are likely going to use the throttle. On that note, I think the 6-speed drivetrain is unnecessary on this style of bike. Many just use cheaper single-speed drivetrains, and I think that would be a good fit here as well. Switching to a single speed would ultimately be just as functional, and it would allow consumers to get some extra cost savings, so we encourage Buzz to make that change in the future. But otherwise, the bike did really well in the throttle test. It felt nice and steady with gradually building speed. It wasn't punchy and overpowered, but it also didn't feel sluggish or weak, so it landed somewhere more in the middle. The bike's top speed was fairly conservative too, so the drone felt safe and controlled. Now let's talk about our range test, where we rode the drone using only throttle power until its battery was empty. We ended up with a result of 20.7 miles over the course of an hour and 15 minutes, which is about 4 miles and 15 minutes longer than we expected based on the bike specs. Compared to similar bikes we've tested previously, the drone's results were a little on the low end, but A, we only recently switched to using the throttle-only method, so we don't have a ton of data to compare to, and B, its results were within just a few miles of some of the others. Its results make sense though, as this bike's 500 watt-hour battery is on the smaller side for this style of bike, so ultimately it did a decent job for the specs that it's packing. We did notice one area for improvement during this test. The bike uses a combination bar and percentage-based battery readout on the display, and usually this is something we like to see. In this case, we found the percentage to be pretty unreliable, and I noticed it jumping around a lot when I was on the bike, so it was difficult to tell how much charge was actually left. We encourage Buzz to switch to a more accurate readout in the future. Otherwise, a range of 20 to 21 miles should cover most rides, even a pretty lengthy commute, so as long as you have a place to plug in once you get where you're going, we expect you'll be just fine. In the event that you like longer rides or need some extra mileage, Buzz is offering 25% off the cost of an extra battery, at least at the time of filming, so you could double your range for an extra couple $100. Next up is our hill test, which our tester Justin performs for the sake of consistency. He tested the drone's throttle and its highest level of pedal assist at our infamous test location called Hellhole Trail. This path is paved, it's a third of a mile long, and it has an average grade of 12%, so it's a pretty tough climb. Let's see how the drone did, and then I'll meet you back here in the studio.
Okay, we are on Hellhole with the Buzz bike, and this is their moto-style e-bike. Doing the throttle test, so we're gonna see how this goes. It's, you know, this is not as bad as the pedal test, because this is how these bikes are supposed to be ridden. So let's see how it does. So right now, it's right about 10.9, 10.8, 9.5, kind of dropping a little bit. Let's see kind of where it kind of bottoms out here. Looks like it's hovering right around 9, 8.6, 8.5 miles. Looks like that's probably where it's going to bottom. I'll let you listen to the motor through this next section as I pass this people. On your left. Thanks. So as far as the motor goes, it feels kind of right in line with what I would expect. Maybe slightly less noisy. And like the frequency is kind of right. It's a little lower, which I tend to like versus like a higher frequency. You know, down on that section got about 8.6-ish on the low end. So this is not going to be like the hill champion for the moto style e-bikes, but it's definitely going to get up, which is great. So, you know, other thing I will mention, the throttle is instead of a twist throttle, it's a thumb throttle as you climb this hill. So if you want to change the power outputs, you got to take your thumb off the throttle. I might actually prefer a twist a little bit, but in terms of climbing, speed-wise, we'll go to the tape and see how this did. All right, we're back out on Hellhole on the Buzz, doing the pedal test now. And again, these are generally my least favorite tests, but I do, as far as this one, it is nice that there are some gears that can shift. So I can kick it down into 4th gear and I don't have to pedal as much, or as hard. Through this first section, I'm right about 10.4 miles per hour. I'm not having to pedal very hard at all, which is nice. Again, especially given that you don't get leg extension, but there is one other challenge on this one, is how high up my knees have to come when I pedal. It still does push a little more strain on those hip flexors. So I'm just gonna say right now, I think this is actually gonna do fairly well on the hill test. On the pedal side, it feels easy, especially since I can shift, you know, down if I need to. But it's still not very comfortable. Like, you're gonna want to throttle this thing around. that holds true for all moto-style e-bikes generally. But this one may be a little bit more given how high my knees have to come up. But you know, that's just kind of normal for moped style bikes. As far as the hill climbing capabilities go, sorry for that tangent, it feels pretty good. I think we're gonna have a fairly decent result here. It's 15-16 miles per hour. The motor sounds nice, and yeah, we'll go to the tape and see how it did on the pedal side.
So pedaling comfort aside, the drone did a solid job at Hellhole and made it to the top in both tests. Justin finished the throttle portion in 1 minute and 37 seconds at an average speed of 11.2 miles per hour. He shaved a few seconds off when pedaling and finished that one in 1 minute and 31 seconds at 11.9 miles per hour. Both of these results are a little below average when compared to other moped-style e-bikes we've tested, but only by a maximum of 10 seconds in the pedal portion. That's pretty impressive when you consider that the vast majority of those other bikes had 750 or 1000 watt motors, where the drone's has a nominal output of 500 watts. We don't know this motor's peak wattage, but its torque rating is 65 Newton meters, so nothing too crazy, but once again, the drone is lighter than average for this category, so that likely helped make up some of the difference in power. I was pretty impressed when I took the bike to our secondary location called Pilot Hill, which is pretty similar to Hellhole. Again, it wasn't the fastest bike in the world, but it did the job with no complaints, so it should be able to handle just about anything you'll encounter. The last thing we have to talk about is ride quality, which is sort of a catch-all for all of the things that influence how the bike feels and operates. Let's go out to the bike paths one more time, and I'll see you back here shortly. All right, so let's talk about the drone's ride quality. This, of course, is a moped-style bike. There's a single frame size with no real defined height range. BuzzBike says that it should fit most riders. And, you know, I'd say I'm pretty comfortable here. I'm 5'11". I'll kind of describe a little bit about what I'm feeling as far as the riding position goes. So, you know, as is pretty common, my lower body, my legs feel kind of crouched. I've got a good bend at the knee. My upper body feels pretty upright. And then my arms are pretty outstretched here. The reach is definitely on the longer side, but that is adjustable with the standard style threadless stem here. You can loosen that up and then change the angle of the handlebars, but that's really about the only adjustment point that there is. We have a suspension fork on the front that kind of helps to soak up some bumps. That has 55 millimeters of travel. And then the tires help out a little bit with that as well. Those are 20x4 and they're made by Kenda. So those are, you know, fat tires that give you a nice stable base to ride on. They've added a little extra cushion, and then they have a chunky tread pattern so you can go off-roading a little bit. And then we have a 500 watt rear hub motor with a cadence sensor. And I'll kind of show off the engagement for that here if you choose to pedal. So go up to PAS5, which is sport mode, and kind of coast for a second. And then I'll turn the cranks, I'll slow down a little bit more. Turn the cranks now. So that was about a full rotation there. And you know, you can always use the throttle to get up to speed a little faster. But all right, we'll call it there and bounce back to the studio. So generally speaking, I'd rate the overall ride quality as decent. The drone was comfortable enough, it was pretty simple to operate, and it had quick handling thanks to its lower than average weight. Speaking of weight though, Buzz said that they don't test or calculate the ultimate weight-bearing property of their bikes. We'd like to see that happen in the future so riders have a firm guideline, but the brand said that the drone has worked well for riders between 200 and 300 pounds. As you saw in the throttle portion of our speed test section, this bike has a feature called throttle after pedal, which means that the bike has to be moving in order for the throttle to engage. With this style of bike, where most riders aren't likely to pedal, we'd rather see the other method called throttle on demand, which allows you to throttle from a dead stop. We also generally find twist throttles to be more comfortable on longer rides, so we think that would be a better fit as well, but of course, some things like that also come down to personal preference. I mentioned in the ride quality clip that the drone has a suspension fork, which is nice to see. The dual crown style is cool looking and it helps to soften the ride. We noticed that it didn't have a lockout or any adjustment, both of which we'd hope to see in the future, but it was definitely better to have this than nothing at all. Critique aside, I did like the step-thru frame and how easy it was to get on and off the bike, and while it's a little thing, I like the drone style of control panel. I was also happy to see the little storage bag that comes with the bike. This is the kind of thing that's not often included. It's not going to be a game changer, but it is a nice little bonus that does add to the overall ride quality. Overall though, this bike definitely felt like it put fun and safety at equal measures. It felt pretty quick and zippy, but not so much that it was scary or difficult to control. So I do want to be sure to give Buzz some kudos on striking a good balance. Usually when I'm getting ready to hop on a moped-style e-bike, I'm prepared to strap in and blast off, but it was refreshing to experience the Buzz drone's fun but slightly more reserved and approachable feel. It's nice to see some variety in this category of e-bikes with something more like a traditional moped, especially if you're a parent and you don't want to put your kid on a bike that feels like a rocket. Looking back at our test data, the drone generally did a decent job, and while its performance was slightly below average in a couple of places, that comes down to the fact that this bike is similar to, but different than, many of the other bikes in this category. Ultimately, we see that as a good thing, and realistically, the drone's relatively average performance still means that it did its job effectively. At least when it comes to e-bikes, average is good. With that in mind, there were a few areas with room for improvement, primarily with the type of throttle that the bike comes with. We recommend that Buzz bikes switch to throttle on demand and encourage them to use a more reliable battery readout, both of which would improve ride quality and user friendliness. We also appreciate the drone's already reasonable price tag, but we think consumers would appreciate an even lower price if Buzz switches its 6-speed drivetrain to a cheaper but equally effective single-speed drivetrain. We see this bike as a cool looking, fun, and most importantly safe option that's likely going to satisfy the parents of teens as well as the teens who might be riding it, but it's also good for anyone looking for an affordable bike of this style and anyone who likes the step-thru frame design that makes the drone easy to hop on and fly off. If you'd like to learn more, you can check out our written review or head directly to the Buzz Bikes website using the 2 links in the video description. Let us know what you think about this bike in the comments section, and feel free to send us any questions you might have. And again, we really appreciate any and all of your support, so please like and share this video, make sure you're subscribed, and use our affiliate link if or when you make a purchase. But thanks for taking a ride with me today. Again, I'm John with Electric Bike Report, and this was the Buzz Drone.